as the economy turns around, we're going to play the same movie over again, and we're going to increase bureaucracy and not increase student achievement.
I'm Brandon Dutcher, Vice President for Policy at OCPA, the Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs, and I'm here today with Dr. Ben Scafidi, an economist at Georgia College, which is the public liberal arts university in Georgia. Welcome to Oklahoma.
Thanks, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
In Oklahoma, as I'm sure in all the states that you visit, there are many voices calling for increased government spending in public education. This happens to be an area of interest for you in your research. Tell us about what you call the school staffing surge over the last 2 decades in Oklahoma and what it's meant for student performance.
Over the last 2 decades, nationally and in Oklahoma, public schools have increased staffing at a much higher rate than their increase in students. There's been a hiring spree, if you want to call it that. In Oklahoma, there was a 10% increase in public school students over the last 20 years, but a 25% increase in the number of public school employees. So who were those employees? There was a 24% increase in teachers, but a 28% increase in administrators and other non-teaching staff. And over that time period in the United States, even though we kept adding more and more bodies to our public schools, there was not an increase in student achievement, and by some measures, there was a slight decrease in student achievement.
I'm reminded of another heavily unionized government monopoly that's in the news a lot lately, the U.S. Postal Service. And I tell people, giving more resources to that organization is not likely to improve performance. Does that analogy seem apt to you, those two large organizations?
Absolutely. You've got to change the incentives facing the managers of both organizations, and they will improve when they have to.
Economists love to remind us of opportunity costs, right? So if I go to the Thunder game, that's money I don't have to go to a restaurant or to invest in the stock market. What are the opportunity costs of hiring all these administrators and other non-teaching staff in Oklahoma?
The opportunity costs in Oklahoma public schools are substantial. If Oklahoma public schools had increased its staffing of administrators and other non-teaching staff at 10%, just like their increase in students, they would have saved, a very conservative estimate, is they would have saved $229 million per year, each and every year going forward. You could do a whole lot of things for students with $229 million, especially when we had this staffing surge and it didn't increase student achievement.
Right, and lawmakers are always looking, they have scarce resources to allocate to roads and bridges or to Medicaid or to prisons or to tax cuts, teacher pay raises. There are lots of things that could have been done with that. Do you find that lawmakers are receptive to this argument when you make it?
I think this is the first time they're hearing it. They did not know this was going on. Teachers, public school teachers, when they see this data, they just nod their head and say, yep, we knew this was going on. Lawmakers are hearing this for the first time. And what public schools will say is the last couple of years with the Great Recession, there has not been a staffing surge. It's been kind of a pause. But what I'm worried about, as the economy turns around, we're going to play the same movie over again, and we're going to increase bureaucracy and not increase student achievement. That's my concern.
In addition to education, another area of interest in your research has been family fragmentation. And I was interested to see researchers Pat Fagan and Nicholas Zill found that a child in an intact married family is more likely to have better student performance. In fact, they said variations in family belonging are more closely associated with school achievement than are levels of government spending on education. That's fascinating. Does that ring true to you?
Yes, that is a very common finding, that parents are the most important thing that influences child outcomes. But schools also matter. And so I think public policy should seek to influence what it can influence. And if public policy can make something better, it should. We're spending considerable amounts of money on public education in this country. We're the highest or second highest spending in the world per student. We should seek to get the most education possible out of those dollars. But going back to your original point, yes, family breakdown has been a huge problem in the United States. And it's been that way for a long time, and it's sad.
Back to the school staffing then, some would say, well, because of the family breakdown and because parents aren't doing things they should do, then now, therefore, we need all this student support and we need these guidance counselors. And on the other hand, others would say, no, as a matter of fact, it's this very increase in the government school system that has caused the family breakdown. The historian Alan Carlson, for example, says there's direct empirical evidence of a strong linkage between the spread of mass state education and the decline of the family. So it's kind of a dilemma. Which do you think is right, or in any case, how do we get out of this cycle?
Back to one of your earlier points, we tried this. We increased staffing, we increased spending, and student achievement didn't increase. We need to try something different. Second point, students today are slightly more advantaged than students of a couple generations ago. Yes, they have worse family situations, but they're advantaged in many other ways: higher income, fewer children in the family, more educated parents. We need to spend our dollars very efficiently so that we can maximize student achievement. How to stop family breakdown is a very important question, and I don't have all the answers. But I do know we need to do something different on public education. The staffing surge in public education has actually been going on for at least 60 years. Over the most recent 60-year period for which there's been data, we've increased administration and other non-teaching staff 7 times faster than the increase in students. Hasn't worked. We got to try something different.
And one of those something different is parental choice, correct?
Absolutely. And I'm convinced that parental choice in education is linked to family breakdown from this standpoint. I think parents will choose schools that are faith-based, values-based, and they will get reinforced as children about the importance of marriage. I think even single parents want that for their children, whereas public schools tend to stay out of it or even do harm with what they preach to students about those issues. And so I think the two issues are actually related.
Very interesting. Dr. Ben Scafidi, thank you for your time today.